Your first assignment in language development and early literacy is to observe and audio or video record a child. You will do 2 observations, one with a preschool child and one with a toddler. It does not matter which you do first. After you have the recording, you will write out or transcribe the interactions, analyze the child's language development, and make teaching recommendations. First, you will need to obtain permission from the families if it is needed. I uploaded the form photographed here to Blackboard. You will find it in the Language Sample Resource folder on Blackboard. Next, you will record the child in a home, community, or school setting. Plan to record for 20 to 30 minutes. There are free apps available for your phone or iPad, and I found those to be very useful. As a sample, I used a YouTube video, and we will look at that, and it is available also on Blackboard in the Language Sample Resource folder for the course. To begin completing the observation form, you will fill in your name, the name of the child using only the first name or a fake name or initials, the date that you recorded, and the age of the child in months. Next, you'll move down to the context section. This section on the form. The context should describe the details of the setting and the characters included in the sample. For example, where were you in the house? What type of playground were you on? How many people were in the classroom, and how many of those people were adults and how many are children? Who are the people discussed or included in the transcription? Include the developmental history of the child. For example, are there special needs? Was the child premature? Does the family speak English at home? Is the child healthy? Context is part of the first area that you're graded in. I want to point out on the rubrics so that you understand how you'll be graded in this area. I'm looking at meeting expectations. What I'm looking for is that I can visualize the setting and the characters of the language sample. Here is an example of the context from a student in the fall. She wrote, "Today I observed Martha at the child care center that I work at. Martha is 2 years old and a full-time toddler. She's been in the program since she was 3 months old. She is very talkative and outgoing toddler who is always on the go and unable to stick with one activity for a very long period of time. Martha lives with her mom, dad, and her baby brother, Brandon. While observing Martha today, I started off looking at books with her, then mostly played with her and her friends, Jordan and Avery, but occasionally called over other classmates. The only thing I would want to know here was, again, the total number of people in the classroom, how many were adults and how many were children. Otherwise, I can pretty much visualize what's going to happen and who the characters are." Also in the first part, you're graded on the transcription. You will select about 15 minutes of your segment to transcribe by typing it out. On the rubric, I'm looking for that the length of what you've typed out supports 15 minutes of activity. To show you how this is done, I have put a YouTube short video on Blackboard in the Language Sample Resource folder. Looking at the video for the first 21 seconds, here's what I typed out. Let's listen to make sure that I captured it accurately.
What is that?
I'm gonna be a bat and something.
A bat? What if you can't be a bat?
Yes, I am. I'm bigger.
Yeah, but what if...
So, how did I do? Here is an excellent example of a transcription. This is just one portion. The student turned in approximately 3 pages of typed work, just to give you an idea of what you need to plan for as far as time. Look at the notes on the previous slide and an upcoming slide for some samples that, according to the rubric, meet expectations. Here are the notes that I added to my transcription. I opened up my milestones document and I went to Blackboard in the Language Sample Resource folder to find that. I downloaded it to my computer so that I could copy and paste. It is also the document that I handed out in class when we met the first time. Looking at the 36 to 48 month age level, because Kay is 3 years old, I noticed first with her first utterance of squeak, squeak, that she pronounced the k in squeak, and that was phonology at that age level. I copied directly from the document and put in that 90% of children have mastered the list of sounds there. I'm not going to add notes to the adult speech, so the next time that Kay spoke, I noted that she had a 7-word sentence. I then I looked at the 36 to 48 months and saw that she had exceeded that, so I turned the page to 48 to 60 months, and under the syntax column, I copied that she produced 4 to 8 word sentences. She also used I'm, which is syntax at the 36 to 48 months, and there its contracted modules appear. Her last utterance that I transcribed in the first 21 seconds was, yes, I'm bigger. This is morphology at 48 to 60 months, where she used comparative ER ending, or a suffix, was emerging, and I made a note that it was above age expectations. Here's another example from a student of notes that she did for a toddler observation, again, just to see what types of things I might be looking for. Next area that you're graded on is the analysis. This is the most heavily weighted area in the grading. First, you'll analyze the phonological development. You'll provide examples from the transcription and analysis and list the source of what you used. Likely every time you list the source, you'll put text and Sachs and Weston milestones. That is the handout that I gave you in class, and it's the last handout that I used when talking about adding notes to the language sample that I created. You can read what the student wrote by pausing the video and looking at the screen. What I'm looking for in analysis is that there are 3 or more examples from the transcription. The analysis summarized the notes effectively, and source or sources were identified. This is a phonology chart, You can use this chart to see if a child is meeting age expectations as well as using the Saxon Weston document. That's the milestones document that I gave you in class the first night. This chart is available on Blackboard in the Language Sample Resource folder. It lists the age of the child at the top, and that's right here. And then it's difficult to read on this slide, but if you download it, you'll be able to read it clearly in the PDF document. It says what sounds they're supposed to be able to make. This will help you in your analysis of phonology. The next area that you will analyze is semantics or vocabulary development. Again, you'll provide some examples from the observation and then do an analysis. The Saxon Weston milestone document will be most helpful here. This chart also shows what you might expect in terms of vocabulary development at different ages, and you're welcome to use it as a source. You could just list the assignment video and I'll know what that is. Next, you will analyze syntactic development. Here you can see the student listed many examples from the observation, did the analysis, again, very well written. This is probably one of the best examples of an analysis that I could provide you. Use the Saxon Weston's milestone document for syntax. Don't worry about calculating the MLU or mean length of utterance. Use the word count or how many words that they said in a sentence. I also put the chart that you're looking at right now on Blackboard in the Language Sample Resource folder. It may be helpful in terms of analyzing syntax. Morphology is included in the syntax column on the Saxon Weston milestone document. So I'm going to tease that out a bit for you so that you understand exactly what morphology is. When we add prefixes and suffixes, we can change the meaning of words. This is morphology. Inflectional suffixes change the form of the word, and derivational prefixes and suffixes change the meaning or part of speech. Here's a chart that we would have completed in class. Let's look at the verb teach and change that. The noun, of course, teacher. The verb is teach. The adjective is teachable, and the adverb would be, I love this one, teacherly. So you could go through and complete the chart just to understand a little bit about derivational affixes. On this page, you can see how we use inflectional suffixes to make grammatically correct sentences. For example, the school was work hard for donations doesn't make sense. But if we say the school was working hard for donations by adding that ing to the word work, we have created a grammatically correct sentence. So, morphology plus syntax equal grammar. A morpheme is the smallest unit which carries meaning. For example, a s sound to the end of the word makes it plural. Morphology can be further divided into inflectional, concerned with putting endings on the words, and derivational, which involves the formation of new words. Affixation is the process of attaching an inflection, or more generally, a bound morpheme to a word. This can include at the beginning or occasionally in the middle of the word. Usually it's at the beginning or at the end. Syntax concerns the possible arrangement of words in a language. The basic unit is the sentence, which minimally contains a main clause of a subject and a predicate. Nouns and verbs are the major categories, combined with various others such as adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, conjunctions, etc., to form more complex sentences. Here are more examples of, at different ages, what you might expect in terms of syntactic and morphemic development. The last area of analysis is pragmatics. Here you will be looking for examples of pragmatics from your transcription and then analyze it and list the source. Saxon-Weston does a great job of explaining what pragmatics includes. In addition, think of it in this way, that it could include expressing feelings and ideas, asking for help, engaging in dramatic play, solving a problem, or using private speech. Now that you've analyzed a child's speech and language, you're ready to form some conclusions. In this area, I am looking to see that you summarize the evidence from the language sample and that you could determine if the child was typically developing or may benefit from additional evaluation. You've analyzed and made a conclusion about the child's speech and language. Now you're ready to provide some recommendations for teaching and learning. Here you will use the Massachusetts Curriculum Framework for English Language Arts and Literacy, grades pre-kindergarten to 12 for the preschool child, and the Massachusetts Early Learning Guidelines for Infants and Toddlers for the toddler. The most common error is that students don't select the correct learning standard. In the Language Samples Resource folder, I've included these documents. Make sure for the preschool child that you select the document with this cover, the Massachusetts Curriculum Framework for English Language Arts and Literacy. And when you're looking at the toddlers to make recommendations, you will choose the Massachusetts Early Learning Guidelines for Infants and Toddlers, and it has this cover on it. What I'm looking for in the recommendations section is that there is a clear and logical connection between the child's identified need and the 3 developmentally appropriate activities which you described. I'm looking to see that you chose the most relevant standards from the correct document and that you listed the standard giving the correct citation, copy and pasting the text because I don't have them all memorized, and giving the page number so that I can reference it as well. And you'll see that in this particular sample, as well as the ones that are available online in the language sample resource folder on Blackboard. The last area that I'm looking at is mechanics. And here that I'm looking that you submitted your form on or before the due date for your particular section. Note that each section has different due dates, so the one that's showing on the screen right now may not be the correct one for your section. If you ask for an extension, you will not be penalized. Also, I'm looking to see that you make no errors in grammar or spelling that detract from the content. And this explains the observation portion of the assignment. We can discuss the comparison paper in class, so I'm not going to include it in this video. Thanks for listening, and remember, if you still have questions, please email me and I'll be happy to help you out.